Dr. John Bennett, broadcasting from Miami. This is part of the pre-conference or pre-event series for the event of FitTriathlete.com, sponsored by Ortho Now for the benefit of Special Olympics. Tonight we have the pleasure of having Jameson Goldberg of ErgoDynamic. He's going to give a presentation of what his company is, what it does, and how it benefits the triathlete. So good evening, Jameson. It's all yours.
How are you, John?
Very good.
Thank you for this opportunity. What we're going to do today, we're going to take you through a presentation of ErgoDynamic, a bit of the science behind it, and what a office visit might look like through some pictures and verbals in a PowerPoint presentation. And then we'll give you a little bit of a tour of the office, show you a little bit about what's different about our product versus a standard orthotic and a standard evaluation, and then open it up if there's any questions from anybody towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and screenshot a presentation, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Very good. You can see it.
All right. So again, our company is called ErgoDynamic. As I explained to John earlier, that is both a company name as well as a name for a new science that is involved in what we do with our evaluation. We are the official biomechanics solution of the Miami Dolphins down here in South Florida. All right. Let me just get opened up here. Okay. So to define ergodynamics is the study of the lower limbs in motion. The aim of this study is to establish the pattern of support for each individual to keep a global equilibrium or alignment of the musculoskeletal system, focusing on the spinal column and the lower extremities. The ergodynamics of a human describe how he or she moves around on their feet, either walking, running, standing, or practicing any type of exercise or sport. Such movement seeks stability and maximum balance in the support area of the foot surface.
Okay, so, the slide has not changed, Jameson.
All right.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. No, it's not changed yet.
All right.
There we go. Okay, we changed.
Okay. Now it's on the right one?
Yes, it's yeah, okay, the squats, yeah.
Yep, so the picture that you see to your right is 3 women doing box jumps at CrossFit, which actually is a large part of the population that I know the folks over at Ortho Now see. So just as an example, part of what the orthotics can do is as you're moving through the motions of jumping up to the box, keeping your body in maximum balance, alignment, and support so that there's no injuries through the course of movement. So any change in the support area of the foot surface can cause joint and musculoskeletal degeneration over time. Injuries in athletes can also cause alterations in foot support, and these can also affect the evolution of growth in our youth. So the simple way that I explain it to patients many times is the ground isn't going anywhere, the earth underneath you. So your body is going to have to adapt to how your foot hits the ground. And if you're being out of alignment with your foot, as seen in this picture, then the rest of your body is going to continue along that line. So you can kind of see, if you look at the foot, the outside of the foot on the left is going to hit the ground first. And there's a lot more space on the inside of the foot between the ground and the sneaker. Also, you can see that the knee, if you look closely, is pointed a little bit towards the inside, internally rotated, as the femur and hip above it.
Excuse me, Jameson, it's still on the squat page. Could you move it forward, please?
Yep. Looks like I'm going to have to kind of go in and out each time. Is that good?
Yeah, I think you might have to do it manually.
Nope, no problem.
Okay.
So looking at that foot again, you can see how it's kind of turned in, leaning towards the outside of the foot, and the knee is rotated in as well as the hip and the femur above it. So what we want to do is help to give a little bit of support over the inside of that foot so we can maintain a better alignment of that leg, which is going to go all the way up into the low back and affect the opposite leg as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. It changed. Okay.
So to take you through what a evaluation might look like, first we meet with our patient to take a subjective history. A subjective history is basically the clinician asking the patient some questions that are going to lead them to give information in their own opinion about what they're feeling. So a subjective history including lifestyle, problem areas, which is discomfort and pain typically, as well as their goals and expected outcome of the treatment. Did it change just now or no?
Not yet.
Okay.
There you go. It changed.
Yep. So next, after we get a background story from the patient, we're going to analyze the way patients walk. Cameras will record them on a treadmill from front, back, and side to document any abnormal movement patterns at the hips, knees, and ankles. We're also able to observe things such as stride length, as well as how the foot hits the ground from heel strike until toe off.
It changed. Mm-hmm.
Yep. We then perform a static physical evaluation of muscles, postural attitudes, tendons and ligaments, and joint structure, particularly in the lower extremities and spinal column. So what you can see here is Dr. Lewis and Dr. Sanchez, who's out of Barcelona, actually looking at the back of the patient's Achilles. One of the big things that we look for is called hindfoot varus or valgus, which indicates that the foot is either turned inwards or outwards. And this can be the beginning many times of changes at the ankle, the knee, and the hips, which follow suit. Another thing that we do is we look at leg length discrepancies. This is often a big issue with a lot of our patients and a fairly simple solution. So for a majority of reasons, somebody might have one leg that's a little bit longer, whether the bone structures of the leg are actually longer or the hips are not in neutral or the spinal cord is a little bit to one side or the other. If we catch this at a young enough age, we can even help to decrease the effects of what might turn into a scoliosis over the long term, simply by putting some more support for the arch as well as a heel lift in the shorter leg so that we can even out the hips and therefore the spine. This often alleviates a lot of pain in patients who have low back discomfort.
Okay.
Following the structural examination, we also measure how the pressure is distributed throughout the patient's foot as they step across the pressure platform. So as you can see in the picture, we're actually having the patient walk across the platform. They're not just standing still, either on 2 feet or on both feet. What this allows us to do, rather than your typical orthotic, which is created using a 3D laser, a foam box, or by taking a mold of the foot, is that instead of putting the foot into neutral and looking at the shape of the foot, we're actually going to see how it's hitting the ground, which takes into account everything happening above it at the low back, hip, and knees, which is important because if you think about it, when you're walking and or running, your foot isn't in a neutral position when it's hitting the ground. So we don't want to start correcting from a neutral position. We want to start correcting from the way the foot's going to hit at heel strike, moving through the toe off. So now that we've finished getting through the process, our specialist will review the recordings and pressures, taking note of any irregularity. After studying all of the data, we share it with patients, providing education as well as offering our diagnosis and treatment plan. Here you can see Dr. Lewis actually sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in today with Caleb Sturgis, who's a kicker for the Miami Dolphins, sitting in front of him. You can see on the screen we have an example of the pressures from the feet. So if you kind of look closely, you can see the red is the most pressure, followed by yellow, green, blue, and then black is basically areas of no pressure. So you can see on the inside portion of both feet that there's relatively no pressure, while at the heel and the forefoot, behind the metatarsals, you can see that there's a lot of pressure. Obviously, this is not evenly distributed through the foot, so what we want to do is support the foot in the areas where there's less pressure so that it has more force and is more evenly distributed. This is another example of going through with the patient. We're now looking at Caleb walking, so that we can slow it down and break it down and educate the patient whether their foot is turned to the outside, whether they're landing on the outside of their foot, if one leg is longer than the other one, which we can see by looking at the stride length with the grid in the background. Finally, we begin the treatment. The plan will probably include using one of our customized orthotic insoles, which we can take a look at later. These improve your alignment and correct your walking and running pattern for better health and improved quality of life. So again, we're looking at a variety of patient populations. We see anything from young boys and girls who are having some abnormal growth patterns or some abnormal movement patterns, and we want to get them corrected so that the forces are properly distributed so that they can grow in a quality direction rather than growing out of alignment the way their body currently is, all the way up to athletes who are relatively pain-free but are looking for a competitive advantage, be that balance, be that efficiency of movement so that their feet and their forces are going in a linear direction instead of from side to side. We can help to make those corrections through our treatment plan. Also, the reason that we say it may include one of our customized orthotics is that not every patient is suited for an orthotic, and there's a chance that we might finish this evaluation and we don't think that that's best for you. Our clinicians, myself, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. Dr. Lewis, who is consulted, is orthopedic foot and ankle surgeon. We have an extensive relationship with people like the folks at Ortho Now, those at various physical therapy practices like Jaguar Physical Therapy Associates down in Miami. We can get you set up with the right people that can give you the plan, as I said earlier, for the goals that you're looking for. Some people might just need to lose a little bit of weight. Some people might need to strengthen their core so that they can get through their workouts. And if we see those types of things on the film, then we're able to recommend that to our patients as well. This is an example, just through picture, of some of our different orthotic surfaces. The surface on the top is the one that we typically give our patients first. It's a leather. It's a little bit less frictiony and grippy, so that patients are able to adapt to the new areas of pressure on their skin. The one below that is more of a felt, which is better in a lot of dress shoes. The third one down is actually a breathable, perforated, grippy surface that's best for cleats for athletes, running shoes for runners, sneakers. Again, breathable makes it so that you don't have as sweaty and smelly of feet when you're being a little bit more active. And we also offer both sandals, which we refer to as flip-thotics, that have the customized orthotic built into the sandal in a variety of colors, as well as a NAOP brand of sandals, which are kind of an open-toe leather sandal like a Birkenstock, that we can actually have the footbed created for that can come in and out of different styles. All right. So some of the conditions that we treat include neuromas, plantar fasciitis, tendinitis, periostitis or shin splints, arthritis, knee pain, hip pain, low back pain, even upper back pain and neck pain, muscle dysfunctions, joint pain, and other foot deformations and pain. This picture is an example of somebody with plantar fasciitis. If you look at the bony structure of the foot, you can see how the arch is formed by the bones, and you can see it in this image. The plantar fascia attaches from the front of the calcaneus, which is your heel, to the back of the forefoot under your toes, which is where the metatarsals are. Because humans are bipedal now, or standing on two legs instead of four, as they were thousands of years ago, there's a lot more pressure being placed through the lower leg and through the arch. Now what that does a lot of times is place pressure through the heel and the forefoot, because those are the two lowest points, and that pulls apart on that plantar fascia all day. Patients typically won't feel much pain during the day, but they'll go to sleep and wake up the next morning with significant pain in their heel or in the middle of their foot. Because at night they get cold, the blood rushes to the area, and then you start to feel discomfort when you wake up on a stiff foot. What we can do is provide some support in the middle of the foot, in between the calcaneus and the forefoot, and what that's going to do is take the pressure off of that plantar fascia, so you're not getting as much micro tearing throughout the day. This is a very simple, basic example of the way that the orthotics can help a patient who's in discomfort. Treatment populations more generally include those in discomfort at work or with activities of daily living, resulting in backache, muscle pain, excessive tiredness, etc. Static standing posture and or constant walking, and obviously those who are running as well. Other treatment populations include children and adults, including elderly people, with abnormalities in the spinal column or in the lower extremities, who have difficulties walking and are keeping both static or dynamic balance. This is an example of a child who's got some pretty obvious knock knees, as we call it. The left isn't as bad as the right, but on the right you can really see a significant valgus deformity, as we call it, where the knee is pointed inwards and you can see an angle at the outside of the leg. If you look down at the feet, that angle continues, especially on the right side, at the ankle. If we can straighten things up by giving some support at the middle of the foot, that will straighten the ankle, will straighten the tibia, or the lower leg above the ankle, and that'll straighten through the knee into the hip. If you look at the very top of the picture, you can also see that the right hip is down as a result of all those misalignments in the leg. So again, by straightening it out, we're going to even out the hips as well. So you can see how this patient clearly would have the potential for discomfort at the ankle, knee, hip, and that's even going to go into the lower spine. And just by correcting through the foot, we can do a little to alleviate the discomfort at all of those areas. At a higher end, you can also treat athletes of any type, either amateur or professional. In any sport where the lower extremity must exert an intense pressure over a surface, involving running, pedaling, which are two of the involvements in triathlons, and jumping. In addition to treating recurrent conditions and injuries, the physical performance and efficiency of both amateur and elite athletes can be optimized, and is particularly important in sports such as running, cycling, or athletics in any specialty. So that's the end of the lecture. John, if you'd like, I can show a quick video which kind of sums things up a little bit for everybody.
Sure, sure.
All kinds of people suffer from foot, knee, hip, and back pain, or are at risk of pain due to body misalignment. Do your feet turn in or out? Do you lose your balance frequently? Do your knees or ankles knock when you walk or run? Well, these and other types of complaints often lead to painful conditions over time, whether you work on your feet or with your feet. Repetitive motion can stress and minor misalignments, leading to pain and serious injury. At ErgoDynamic, our proven process will diagnose and correct problems in the spine, hips, knees, and feet caused by body misalignment when you walk, run, or stand. Our holistic biomechanical evaluation analyzes the whole body in motion. First, we record your walking and running patterns to evaluate your gait. Next, we examine how your foot touches the ground and where weight is unbalanced. Finally, we use hands-on physical and muscular assessments to uncover any discrepancies in leg length, posture, or flexibility. Based on our analysis, we'll create custom orthotics to support, guide, and progressively correct your gait to give you improved athletic performance and overall health. With over 40 years of research and data and 27 locations in Europe and the United States, ErgoDynamic helps 25,000 patients perform at their best each year. Get your body back in balance. Contact us today and book your appointment with an ErgoDynamic specialist.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm just checking the tweet board here, Jameson, to see if there's any questions.
Okay.
I have a few. Are you ready for questions, or do you want
Sure.
to?
Let me just ask you quickly. Would you like me to show you an example of what a patient file might look like after looking at some video first, or would you want me to do that after?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead with that? No.
Okay. So I have a quick little video which will show you a little bit what the camera angles will look like as we look at the patients. I can't slow it down here, but I'll show you a quick clip. It's actually myself, so that we're not exposing any past patients without their permission.
Okay. We're not seeing any videos, Jameson.
Okay. What are you looking at right now?
Well, right now we're looking for the ErgoDynamic, the official biomechanics solution of the Miami Dolphins. I think we're on the wrong screen there.
No problem. We'll get you up.
Okay.
As we noticed with the slideshow, it doesn't switch right away.
Yeah, Google Hangouts is a little buggy.
Right.
We're back at your screen now.
I'm not sure if I can. You did see the commercial, correct?
No, we didn't see the commercial either.
Oh, you only heard it.
No, they only heard it, exactly.
All right. Well,
why don't we just go on?
Yeah, that's fine.
Scratch the video. And do you want to take us on a tour of the office?
Sure. You want to do that before the questions?
Sure.
Okay. Let me actually, that's so right now we're sitting at my desk. I'm going to show you the television that we do some of the education on, as you saw in the video.
Mm-hmm.
And we can actually, then you can see a little bit what I was about to show you.
Okay.
All right. So this is what a video would look like. I actually have it slowed down already, where we can really slow down and look at a patient's movement.
Okay.
So this is walking, you can see from the front, then we also have the side view with the grid, and then from the back as well. So what we do with this is we'll end up with a file where, let's see, looking for that exact patient for you. Here we go. So now we open up the file, and there's some information. Again, this is me. So I was a 25-year-old male at the time. I'm a lacrosse player, recreational runner, doctor of physical therapy. I had a history of an L5 spondylolysis, which was treated, and I have occasional low back pain and bilateral knee pain. What we saw when we looked at the videos and the images is that I have a left leg that's slightly longer. I have a left foot that has a hindfoot valgus, which means I have an angle towards the outside at my foot, and I have a forefoot pronation, which means I turn in towards my toes. So if you look at this image, it's hard to see my mouse, but the back of the heel on this side is turned in a lot more than on the other side. And part of the reason is because that leg is longer, and therefore in order to shorten the leg, my body makes changes by bringing the angle closer together. So that's kind of an example of a quick case that we might have. Now I'll take you for a quick tour, as John asked.
Okay.
So as you come in our office off of the elevators, can you see, John?
Yes, I see the waiting room.
This is the waiting room that we have. Right now we're not seeing patients, so the TV's off, but a nice TV in the waiting room, and we'll have water and Cuban coffees available for any of our patients who are waiting. Then you'll come in and you'll see our receptionist in this area right here. That's actually a Dolphins helmet that was gifted to us by Caleb Sturgis for helping him out. Then through the flow that I just took you through with the PowerPoint, this will be where your subjective history gets taken. So we have another chair in case you have somebody with you, a parent, wife, brother, anything. And you'll sit down and we'll ask you a few questions and take a history, like what sports do you play, what activities do you do throughout the week. After we finish through with that, We'll have you come in to where the machine is. So this is the machine that the patients will walk on and or run. All right, can you see that, John?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to lower the force plate now. So everything's connected on one machine, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So this is the force plate that I showed in the video and in the pictures that our patients are actually going to walk across, which is going to see how their forces are distributed through their feet as they're walking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And one of the last parts of the test, we're going to have you get up on the treatment table. Again, I showed leg length discrepancy. Depending on the subjective history, we have a focused evaluation of certain things that we're looking at. So with my background, with a lot of the lower extremity stuff, the lower body, I'll be looking at if somebody has, say, knee pain, I'll be doing specialized tests to see if it might be meniscus related or ligament related or patellar tendonitis related, and we can do a few tests that will help us to decide the exact mold of the orthotic for the patient, as well as help decide on any other treatments that might be available to the patient, whether it's just suggestions for exercises to do at home or whether it's to go see some other specialist. This is a rack right here that's an example of some of the orthotics that we have, including on the bottom the open toe Birkenstock type that I had mentioned earlier.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Okay, very good. Thank you. We don't have any questions as of yet on the tweet board, but let me just ask you a couple questions, Jameson. Now, you yourself had foot problems. Is that how you got introduced into the field?
Actually, no. I have more, as I mentioned from my file, low back issues.
Okay.
I have slightly flat feet, not incredibly, but that probably had a little bit to do with my low back issues. I was working for Jaguar Physical Therapy at the time, part-time, and looking to fill a few more hours, and they had a relationship with the director of marketing for ErgoDynamic and introduced me in that way.
Oh, okay.
And I met with the CEO, met with Dr. Lewis, who is somewhat an advisor for them, and I went through the process and decided that it was something that I really believed in and I thought was a good idea. I spend a lot of my time when I'm treating patients, seeing 2 or 3 patients an hour because of the way the healthcare system is these days, as well as seeing patients who would come and see me, go through their exercises, and go home and not really do much in between. Between their physical or their home exercise programs that I prescribed them while I was seeing them, as well as after they finished their 4 weeks with me. So what I thought to myself was, I see patients maybe 2 or 3 times a week for an hour a day, and they go home and then they don't do anything the rest of the time. So how am I going to find a way to maintain the changes that I'm trying to make during the time that they spend with me? And I thought in terms of alignment, which is a big word that we focus on here at ErgoDynamic, that I could help maintain the alignment that I'm working to improve through their physical therapy at home, because now they have something that they can put in their shoe that's going to kind of do it for them.
Mm-hmm. This question has to do with the nature of your practice, actually, Jameson.
Yes.
I guess the majority of the patients you see have foot problems?
A good majority, I would say, especially recently, we've been seeing a lot of patients with either plantar fasciitis or metatarsalgia, which is basically forefoot pain. Mm-hmm. And it's for the reasons that you could see in the one footprint that you saw with the red in the heel and the front of the foot. Those are typically very simple cases for me. Mm-hmm. While I still want to look at everything that's happening above the foot and take that into account creating the orthotic, ultimately those people need some support in the middle of their foot and the right support in the right places. We also see a lot of people with knee pain, hip pain, Achilles pain or after Achilles tears. Also a lot of people, whether it's was contributing to their injury in the first place or whether it's going to help them be more comfortable now that they've had their injury. We see a lot of workers' compensation cases.
Mm-hmm.
And we find that we're really able to help people get back to work sooner and more efficiently by having a little bit of support in their shoes.
You know, I'm surprised you mentioned that sometimes it detects meniscal problems. Is that pretty accurate, being able to detect
the machine itself isn't going to detect, you know, a meniscal problem or a meniscal pain.
Right.
It's not like it's going to take an MRI without taking an MRI.
Right.
However, if a patient's describing their knee pain to me, I might not even have to do one of my meniscal tests that I learned in school as a clinician and that I use with my patients. I might just see that they happen to be, again, landing on towards the outside of their heel and eventually coming across their toe. So kind of like this and then across, if you look from the heel of my hand going towards my thumb.
Okay.
Now what's happening while the foot is doing that is that everything else is rotating above it. So you put all the weight of somebody like me, who's 175 pounds, through that leg, and now you're compressing the meniscus in the knee, and then you're twisting on it every time you walk.
Mm-hmm.
So say the foot gets stuck in the ground, so instead of coming off your toe the way you're supposed to, now it doesn't come up and you continue in that direction. Or say as an athlete someone gives you a little nudge and you're already moving that way and now you're off balance and move further. You're rotating on essentially an object that's being squeezed between two bones, and that's when you're going to get a meniscal tear.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that that was the way that that started to happen, whether it was a traumatic injury or a chronic injury over time, where the meniscus was repeatedly being twisted on over and over and over from the movement patterns that I can watch in slow motion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, again, this is another question directed at the nature of your practice.
Yes.
Now, is the majority of the patients athletes?
No, that's in a way that's how, you know, I felt coming into the practice, that it was marketed. You know, you see it's called ErgoDynamic. It has dynamic in it, which is an exciting, moving word. We have the fancy blue and orange logo. You know, it looks very athlete focused. That said, some of the patients that I've seen the most amazing results with are some older patients that are having trouble just standing up and doing the dishes. We've had people come in and tell us that they're unable to stand for 5 minutes to be able to do the dishes after they finish cooking and eating at night. And then we get them in the orthotics, and it helps to put them back in a little bit more of alignment and balance, and also gives some cueing to their body and their nervous system that their muscles should be working and posturing their body a little bit differently. And it really helps them to make a lot of progress.
Okay, very good. Now, Jameson, since the theme of this basic pre-event hangout is triathlete health, what are the nature of the injuries of triathletes that come in to see you?
To give a few specific examples that come off the top of my head, we had one athlete who was a triathlete who was a very fast runner. He pretty much ran the distance as if it was a 100-meter sprint. And he told us that, and he loved it because he wanted to go faster and faster. You know, he ran completely on his forefoot, which is typically the way sprinters will run. Mm-hmm. And part of what we told him was, we understand you want to be fast. We understand that that's kind of worked for you in terms of the races, but you have this issue, and that's the reason you have this issue. Because when you're on your toes all the time repetitively over long distances, you're putting stress through your gastroc or your calf and through your Achilles tendon repeatedly every single time. Mm-hmm. What he needed was something that was going to help bring him back into his midfoot. This is where some of the education came, and showing him the videos and teaching him a little bit about the research, as well as giving him an orthotic where the increased support in the midfoot as well as the sensation of the support on the bottom of his foot is going to draw him back a little bit from being up here back into the saddle a little bit into the middle of his foot. Other patients, again, a lot of knee problems just because of repetitive long-distance running, which, when out of alignment and when having excessive motion, eventually is going to cause long-term wear and tear on the body. So we want to put those people back into a neutral position and decrease the excess motion. Mm-hmm. A third example of without injury or discomfort is the competitive triathlete who's trying to win races or decrease their time. one thing you couldn't see on the picture that I showed is that there's actually a line that shows the center of force as well as timestamps to show you where you're spending the most time as you're going through your motion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're going in a curved pattern, which a lot of times results in a forefoot pronation, so you're leaning towards the outside going off in this direction, and then you have to come back towards the middle, you're curving your forces, and you're not running in a linear direction. So A, you're not moving as quickly, and B, you're having to use more force in each step to run at that speed.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get you running in a more straight direction, that's going to decrease the forces in the joints, but it's also going to increase your speed and decrease the energy used for each step so that you can run faster for longer.
You know, every sport has a different distribution of injuries. Hockey, you have a lot of upper leg injuries, upper leg muscle injuries like hamstring, groin pulls. Do you get those in triathletes?
From the number that I've seen, we haven't seen a ton of them.
Okay, it's mostly lower leg injuries with.
A lot of lower leg injuries and a lot of just overuse injuries. It could be going a little higher into the hip and back, but a little bit more of chronic tendinitis and type of injuries from overuse than the traumatic type of injuries that you see in what is, in my opinion, a more explosive sport like hockey.
Right. Well, shin splints, that's one term that everybody knows. What exactly is that? Do you guys treat that?
Yes, we do.
And what is it? What is it?
So shin splints is an inflammation of typically either the anterior or posterior tibialis or tibialis tendon.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try and bring something up for you here.
Okay.
Again, I don't know if we're going to be able to.
Okay, we'll give it a shot.
Bring you into it. But I'm going to look because we actually wrote something on this recently. Here we go. Let's see. Screen share.
It's almost synonymous. Runner shin splints.
Yeah, it happens quite often. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to bring you into it, but that's all right.
That's okay.
So, you know, even as we wrote, it's often seen in runners, bicyclists, and athletes with a wide variety of performing repetitive movements. So what happens is you get micro trauma in the soft tissues of the lower leg. As I said, anterior or posterior tibialis.
Okay.
The onset of pain is kind of, as I mentioned, as opposed to a hockey injury or a football injury where you have something sudden and traumatic. It's chronic. It's gonna come on gradually with the pain and discomfort. So the causes are oftentimes improper training techniques, muscle imbalances, misalignments, improper walking, and running mechanics. So an example of that is the example that I like to use, and you'll know because you're over in Brickell in Miami, is there's a lot of people that decide I want to lose 15 pounds. My goal is I'm going to run a triathlon. I'm going to do the training to get there.
Mm-hmm.
First thing they do, where do they see people running in Miami? The MacArthur Causeway. I think that's the one. Going over to Key Biscayne, that's MacArthur, right?
Yeah. Well, no, MacArthur goes to Miami Beach. Key Biscayne, yeah, that's a different bridge.
But so there's a bridge going to over Key Biscayne. That's a huge hill up and a huge hill down.
Yeah.
And it's probably about a mile each way. So all of a sudden people go from not training at all to not only running on flat ground, but to running up and then down hills a mile each way.
Right.
Now, my orthotic isn't going to change the fact that you're going to get tibial tendinitis if that's what you do.
Right.
But if you train properly and you train with the right equipment and increase gradually, which is part of the education process, and keep your body in alignment and in balance, decreasing the excessive movement, then at least you have a better chance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Jameson, I'd like to thank you very much. I'd like to wrap it up. Your office is in Coral Gables, correct?
Yes, our main office is in Coral Gables. We also see patients at satellite locations.
Okay.
We see patients at Ortho Now, actually, on Thursday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. over in their Doral location in the rehab center. We're also seeing patients at Orthopedic Care Center in Aventura. It's a orthopedic physician's office, which is right behind Aventura Hospital. And we're going to start seeing patients soon in Orthopedic Associates USA in Plantation, Florida.
Okay, very good. And anyone can get information about your practices at ErgoDynamic.us, correct?
Yes, or get ErgoDynamic.com. Either of those will bring you to the same location.
Very good. Thank you, Jameson. And for everyone out there watching, Larry Creswell at 7 o'clock on this channel, cardiothoracic surgeon that is really a triathlete. So stay tuned. Thank you, Jameson. Good night.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Oh.